Hey guys, welcome to another episode of MP Talk, the official MP First podcast where we talk about the multiplayer games we love to play. And as with every episode, we're dedicating this one to a specific theme. Again, this time it's going to be Battlefield Hardline. The beta is now out on all platforms until Monday, February the 8th. Thank you to Visceral for extending it one day. This podcast will probably go live near the last day. And I rounded up some fantastic gentlemen with me today. I have your casual or usual crew. We got Denny. How's it going?
It's going pretty awesome.
Sweet. I have Jimmy. What's up?
Nothing much.
And you guys remember Tom. What's going on, man?
Hey, man, just enjoying the beta a little bit.
A little bit. That's good. That's good. This podcast I think is going to be good for a couple of reasons. We got some varying opinions on the Battlefield Hardline beta and whatnot, so we'll get some good discussion going. But also, we do have a very special guest. You guys, if you are in any way, keeping up with the Battlefield community, you probably know of a fine gentleman named LevelCapGaming. He's joined us today.
That's Mr. LevelCap.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us on a Saturday night. We know there could be more exciting things to be doing.
I know. I'm a computer nerd just like you guys. Got nothing else.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. Computer nerds unite.
Yeah.
Tonight. That's sweet. So yeah, we're gonna talk about Hardline quite a bit, probably for the whole podcast. And where to start? Well, I just kind of have a general question for everybody that I kind of want to hear, from everybody what their sort of just their initial impressions on the beta. Does it make you look forward to the final release? Are you excited about it, or have you confirmed that it's not your thing anymore? But I just wanted to talk about article came out yesterday, or we wrote about it yesterday, where there are clearly some improvements. Some Battlefield Hardline is a brand new Battlefield game. It's a new direction and everything, but some of the complaints are that it's not quite the improvement a lot of people were expecting over Battlefield 4 a year and a half later. So kind of keeping that in mind, I figured we could just talk about the beta. Let's first just get a general overview of what your general impressions are. So why don't we start with you, Denny? Are you enjoying the beta or not so much? And you are, mind you, you are a Battlefield guy. So what's your take on it?
So I like Hardline, but I like it for its unique game modes rather than Conquest with it in it. Just because I think that the map Dust Bowl for Conquest doesn't really work well in terms of my favorable Conquest maps, such as Caspian Border and stuff like that. But considering Hotwire and Heist, I think those game modes are spot on, really good. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I guess I would consider buying the game just based on the unique game modes. So I think with the beta, I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, no, that's a solid point. We can even talk about that a little later. Is the game modes, which are unique to Hardline. Jimmy, you're telling me you're a little bit bored of the beta.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really expecting much from the game, or much of a big improvement. But it's basically exactly what I thought it'd be. All right. DLC expansion. I mean, it's not worth the $60 price. I'm not. Cool. I did give it a chance. Someone's talking to me. Be back.
Oh, okay. That's. Well, Tom, you're kind of in the same boat, I think.
Yeah, at full retail cost, I just don't see the value.
All right. Yeah,
now people throw out the term mod.
Sorry.
And there are paid mods out there. I mean, Counter-Strike eventually became a paid mod. So in that regard, I think it's worthy of being a paid mod. I just don't see it as a full retail package. Because if you look at the engine, you look at the resolution, you look at the graphics, you see how everything is. It kind of just looks like where Battlefield 4 left off after all the patches and everything. Right. I don't see the Frostbite engine is pretty much untouched from it, I would say. It does have its own unique flair in terms of recoil and the aesthetics. So it's kind of like mods that are made in the Source engine. I mean, it looks like it's in the Half-Life universe, but it still maintains its own unique personality. But there's just too much familiarity between this and Battlefield 4, and not to mention a game that emphasizes high-speed chases. The Frostbite engine, I think, is a bad pairing in terms of vehicle physics. It's not where I'd like it to be. But if I saw it on a price drop, like, $40 range, I'd consider it. I don't want to get too much into the engine, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. If it took a price drop and maybe premium, they don't charge for premium, I would highly consider it.
Basically how I feel. It's a mod. It's a game that could have been modded. $30 tops for me. I mean, and like Tom was saying, the vehicle physics.
But guys, the single player.
No.
Yes, the number one reason Battlefield is such
Come
a great
on.
Hey, in Hardline's defense, it looks like they've put in more effort to the single player than previous Battlefield games. I mean, I'm still probably not going to play it, but, in their defense.
And something to keep in mind about how poorly the vehicles drive in this game, Battlefront is going to run on this engine. Isn't it?
No, God, stop.
Yeah, but they have, like hover tanks and, oh man, the AT-ATs.
I guess one thing to keep in mind there is that, the Frostbite engine is DICE's engine, and DICE is making Battlefront. So that's kind of a good thing. So, but Mr. LevelCap, that's what we decided we're calling this.
All right, I like it.
Yeah. I had you on today specifically because, well, one, you kind of got some insight on the giving feedback to the beta, and in addition, if for anyone who's seen your videos, I like that you remain very sort of objective about the series in general. So that's kind of why we have you on. So yeah, what are your, if you can, I know it's a really hard question, but like your sort of general thoughts on Hardline? How do you feel?
Overall, I would say positive. Now, of course, I am Mr. Number One when it comes to bias, looking at this game biasly because Battlefield's my jam. It's my game. I like it. It reminds me more of BF3 than it does BF4, and to me, that's like 2 thumbs up. Not for everybody. As far as the graphics thing you were talking about, I totally agree that there's really no graphical improvement from BF4. In fact, in many situations, it's less impressive visually. And I feel kind of bad for Visceral and developers that basically have a publisher over their heads saying, like, we got to make this for the Xbox 360 and we got to make this for the PS3, and we have to have parity because people get pissed off if the next-gen console looks so much better, which I think is a terrible reason. But nonetheless, it is one of the bigger reasons that I think is keeping some of these games that are popping up on next-gen consoles from being as cool as they could be. The next Battlefield game should be next-gen only, and hopefully that'll allow them to push the envelope graphically and physics-wise and all that stuff. But I wouldn't say I'm disappointed with the way things look. It's kind of got that new look, like you guys were saying. There's some new stuff, new textures, new maps, new gun camo, etc. So it's got enough newness for me. And I think what surprised me the most from at least the latest iteration of the beta is that the 2 new game modes, Heist and Hotwire, personally, I thought those were going to be kind of gimmicky just because I'm used to the way that the Battlefield franchise has introduced new game modes. They've always been kind of gimmicky. Air superiority, obliteration is so-so, not really that well balanced in many maps. Capture the flag is just sort of like this add-on thing. So I thought these were going to be gimmicky game modes, but I have to say they really do bring something new. And even though Hardline isn't going to get Rush as a game mode, I think Heist is better than Rush. Like, I'm having more fun with it. I think there's more strategy. And I think that's reason enough if you're a big Battlefield fan to, like, get into the new games.
Yeah, I think we should talk about that because it is important. I think, first of all, EA and Visceral I think they're really smart to include these 2 game modes in the beta because I was in the exact same camp as you. And in fact, I think a lot of people were we're looking at Heist, we're looking at Hotwire. Oh my God, you drive cars in a Battlefield game? Like, what? You don't you barely get to shoot anything? Like, what's up with that? But no, man, like and like Denny said, I'm playing those 2 way more than Conquest.
Yes, exactly. I don't even want to play Conquest. I want to play Heist and Hotwire.
Yeah, and Heist totally. I think Heist does capture the exact same feeling and sort of intensity that Rush provided in back in the Bad Company days. I think it's captured the exact same thing. So yeah, I'm totally
Yeah.
fine with Rush being out the window.
And
If
it's more interesting too than Rush, because
Yeah.
Rush is sort of like, okay, you get the two MCOMs and then you fall back to the next base, but it's the same thing essentially, where it's like there's sort of this front line at each set of MCOMs. Whereas Heist, you can like, do I want to defend the bank vault? Do I want to try and meet them halfway? Do I
Yeah.
want to split the difference and position myself between two of the drop points? Do I want to just camp the drop point? And as the robbers, it's like you have all these different options of which drop point to go to, what tools to use to get there. It's just got a much more dynamic and strategic feeling than Rush ever did.
Yeah, you have to like decide fast on your feet, which is something Rush didn't really have. You know what you're doing in Rush 100% of the time.
Yeah.
One thing I did like was in terms of the drop points, let's say the briefcase gets dropped and the police recover it, the drop point actually shifts somewhere else. Like if you drop it inside, if it gets dropped inside the zone and then it moves somewhere else, that really changes like the whole dynamic. You just see like a mad rush of people a mad scramble, like, oh, should I go through the bank to get to the next one? Or I really like that. It just keeps it like Rush, where the two MCOMs are always going to be. And then if, you're on the final wave and there's only one left, it's just basically a camping battle and who's going to win out on that to some extent. That's kind of generalizing it to some degree, but I really like, that's a nice little twist. And that's probably why I like Heist significantly more than Hotwire.
Sweet.
And
Well,
you actually, I didn't realize this at first, but you actually have the option as the police to blow up or do enough damage to the helicopter when it comes to that point. And if you destroy it, it'll actually move to a different point. So say they have the easy drop off, which is right next to the vault, right through the wall. That's pretty much the easiest one to get to. If the cops blow up the chopper once it's come down there, all of a sudden it switches to one of the harder points to go to. So it's even got that like extra layer of strategy.
I
noticed it was taking damage from my gunfire, but it just seemed like it was like, I think each shotgun blast I did took like 1 damage to it. So I didn't know if like maybe RPGs and stuff like that.
For sure.
Oh yeah, I'd imagine.
Wow. What about Denny and Jimmy? What modes are you guys digging?
I'm definitely digging Heist the most, just because Hotwire kind of feels like, and it was something that I saw Birdu post, was that like people were camping it like they were camping Domination with like the C4 and stuff like that. Because if you remember back in like Battlefield 3 when Close Quarters came out, people were throwing C4 on the points because they were because the areas to capture it was so small that you could just get like multi-kills every single time someone tried to capture it. So in Hotwire, I mean, and I've kind of seen it before, is people are just throwing explosives and stuff like that on the points, okay? And they're not like traps or anything, but when you start driving, you get blown up. It is so annoying, and no one's starting to win, and it's just a repeat of someone trying to grind out kills. So I'm definitely leaning towards Heist more, just because it does have that dynamic, and it also has that it also has that tactical and competitive feel to it. I kind of feel like if they brought the player count down from 32 players and made it kind of like an 8v8 kind of thing, then that would be a really great game mode to competitively play. At least in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Are you guys looking forward to like the actual competitive modes, like hostage rescue and was it Crosshairs? No,
yeah, I think that's what it is.
Was it Crosshairs?
I think it's called Crosshair. If that's the final name they chose for it, anyway.
Yeah, I think in their announcement, that's what it was.
Okay, I understand what hostage rescue is, but what is Crosshairs?
As far as my understanding, at least of having played it last time, it was a mode where it was like VIP rescue. So you got like a squad of 5 guys, and the defending team has a squad of 5. And the attacking team has to get their VIP to a pickup point. And if he dies, then the game's over.
That's just like Insurgency's VIP. Oh, I like that.
Yeah. What did you have? When I I reported on that when Battlefield announced that game mode, and yeah, the top comment on that article is Insurgency, like the guys from Insurgency. They said sounds familiar. Gave me a good chuckle.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean it's this game mode's existed in other games for a
it
while,
has.
but
It has.
I will say, not giving away too much
Oh, what
information on
now?
it. Um,
Jimmy's playing.
it's
by
going to
the
be
way.
one of those things you want to play with friends that you're on communications with, because
Yeah.
just put yourself in the situation where Joe Schmo is the VIP that round. He's like, "I'll take point, guys," and you're like, "No, no, 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 no," and then he gets sniped in the first 5 seconds. Like, yeah, you're gonna want to play it with friends.
Mhm.
You like that, Tom?
What about Oh, are you and Tom playing together?
He's on the other team.
Jeez.
Going back to game modes, I'm really digging Heist, but like I mentioned in the chat earlier, I think it's a huge design flaw when you can complete a match in 2 minutes if one team doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, I think that's a beta issue because people are still learning the game now. I think
I have
it's kind
seen
of like
some people
rush,
just
you know?
standing at defend points. They just stand there the entire time, almost playing it as if it's like conquest. But that was earlier on. Like you see all these icons, you're not exactly sure what's going on. You're like, okay, there's 2 white ones. I see 2 that say defend. What am I supposed to be doing? But yeah, I definitely think that's more of a beta issue. I think you won't be seeing any quick finishes once everybody figures out how to play.
Yeah, and I think one of the benefits of it is that rather than dragging on a game where one team is just smashing the other like for 10 minutes straight, if one team's really that good, they're just going to grab both packages and beat the game. Or I guess if they're defending, it could take a while, but it'll at least conclude it quicker.
Yeah. Well, so I also wanted to talk a bit about Dust Bowl. That conquest
God,
map.
stop.
What?
It's
Well, here,
it's
me-
a horrible map for Hotwire.
I see. I don't
I
understand.
disagree.
To me, if I may go first here, sorry, not Hardwire. Dust Bowl is like I've been playing it a lot, and it's like it would be my absolute like probably #1 favorite conquest map of all time and of all Battlefield time. I love it, except for that you simply can't destroy a lot of those like smaller huts that you think. Like I was really hoping for like Golmud Railway type of, up at A and B. Is it A and B at the top of the map?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was really hoping for that kind of thing, but all over Dust Bowl. But even that aside, like I love the layout. I love that there are so many little huts or houses that you can. That's offensive to call them huts, but you can go in and I really like the layout and the whole zipline thing. Cool. And I mean, maybe a small bias is that I do prefer medium to slightly large conquest map, like things like Grand Bazaar and that kind of size. I really like that. So maybe I'm biased, but yeah, okay. What
I definitely disagree with the fact that Conquest or that Dust Bowl is a good Conquest map, just because how it's laid out completely just feels really off to what I'm used to. And I say
I don't
this,
think is that different though.
well, the thing is that it has all these houses that aren't destructible, okay, and then it has all these little points inside that you can just hang out on, okay. And the thing is that in other conquest maps, in like let's say Battlefield 4, okay, or Battlefield 3, there usually were just 2 points of entry, okay, into wherever you're capturing, or you'd be outside. There wasn't like upstairs, camping spot with 2 levels. There wasn't ladder to get you in the sniping position that you can just sit there and defend because there's no destruction on it. And then it just feels like Hardline is, and I don't know if this is a technical issue or something like that, but it just feels like Hardline is not capitalizing on the classic modes with the classic destruction, and that's why I think it's a bad conquest map.
Agree that destruction could be upped on that map.
Yeah,
I would like to weigh in just because I feel like this beta, they picked some good maps to showcase,
Yeah.
but they really undersold some of the destruction that's going to be available in some of the other maps. And I don't want to defend Dust Bowl because the lack of destruction is probably my biggest complaint with it. It's just weird not to be able to shoot a brick wall and have it blow up. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've been playing like the mechanic, whip out the grenade launcher when I see somebody go prone behind a tiny little garden wall or something, and then shoot it, and it's just like this indestructible, immovable mass, and that drives me crazy. There are some maps with like Bad Company 2 level destruction, like everything is destroyable, but at the same time, that gives you a very inconsistent feeling when you switch between that and then Dust Bowl, and that it still has me scratching my head. I'm like, you guys have to like nail something down. Like, I'm cool with less destruction than full destruction, but like full destruction and then complete non-destruction, I think is just gonna like, it's gonna like bother people because you're gonna get used to being able to blowing open walls and all that stuff, and then you're gonna go to a map. It's like, oh, this map you can't do any of that. It's like, what game am I playing now? So yeah, that's my gripe with it.
I think Operation Metro in Battlefield 3 capitalized on how you can do destruction in all the maps, but keep it on a minimal level, because instead of like Caspian Border and stuff.
Too. That was great.
Yeah, instead of like Caspian Border, like larger maps where you could like basically destroy everything, you know, in Operation Metro, you could only destroy, you know, some of the buildings and stuff that were on the outside. So if Visceral could make Dust Bowl have the same kind of you know, vanilla pasting huts or houses or whatever you'd like to call them, and have them and have destruction on that, and then maybe keep the block, as I remember the map is called, that can be completely destroyed, then I would be okay with that. But like LevelCap said, I mean, it kind of just feels like, you know, you're playing like 1942 or Battlefield 2, where you can't really destroy everything and everything is kind of invincible.
My favorite is Battlefield Bad Company 2 Vietnam, where you go from BC2, where it's like, destroy this entire village, to Vietnam, where like tank versus straw hut, like straw hut wins. You're like, what the hell?
Was weird. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it drove me crazy. Actually, everybody loves Bad Company Vietnam, but it was one of the reasons I couldn't get into it as much.
It kind of sounds like to me then that Visceral is like, they've made that executive decision that Dust Bowl is played better without destruction. It
wasn't, just from my inside information, I believe it was a performance decision.
I did also hear that as well, but I wonder, I thought, like, you know, if that's the case, could you not maybe just put it on some of the
that would be my thing too, is like I could like go through that map right now and be like, okay, let's make that destroyable, like that's fine if it doesn't destroy. Like, there's a good chunk of things you could pick out that would make it much better to play.
It seems like an obvious it seems like an obvious question, but if it is performance related, would you rather them just get rid of the dust storm, obviously got to rename the map, you can't call it Dust Bowl, but get rid of the dust storm and have the destruction?
I don't know. If that was the trade-off, then absolutely, but I don't think that's the trade-off. I think destructible buildings and stuff like that in Gulf of Oman and BF3 and BF4 are good examples
true.
That map has some of the worst performance, and it's because there's so many destroyable buildings, and I don't think it has anything to do with the dust storm. In fact, I would imagine the dust storm improves performance because it reduces your field of view, so basically you're rendering less.
I was telling these guys, yesterday I played a lot actually on the Xbox 360, and when the dust storm comes in, it's funny how things are still very visible, because it's like the 360 can't render that sort of blurry, you know, it just kind of like cuts off. It's like you can only just see to a certain point, and then you just can't see past it. But otherwise, things in your like immediate sort of area are still very clear, like much clearer than on the PlayStation 4 or PC or Xbox One. I thought that was kind of funny. But
yeah, that's interesting. Graphical differences.
Yeah. Actually, it was interesting because I was telling these guys too. It plays pretty well on the 360, and because of the way it looks, it actually really reminded me of Bad Company 2 because it's kind of got a, I don't know. It's just because it looks worse. Essentially, that's kind of why. But my memory of Bad Company 2 was all on the 360, and that, it wasn't the best looking game, of course, compared to what's out there now. But I don't know, playing it just kind of, for some reason, that gives me a Bad Company 2 vibe, but not when I play on the Xbox One, just because it looks so much more detailed and better and whatnot.
Looks Battlefield 4-ish. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, it looks, Battlefield 4, Battlefield 3 kind of thing. But I don't know. I like Dust Bowl. I like the layout. I like, the reason why I think I'm going to really enjoy Hardline is because it's essentially based on the way that I like to play Battlefield, which is I'm not much of a tank and attack chopper or jet kind of guy. I just really like I like having medium to large size conquest maps, but having a ton of transport vehicles and just being able to go from point to point. So I really like that.
Yeah.
Bad Company 2 all over again. There's not a bunch of fighter jets flying in the air. It's basically all transport vehicles.
Even that, there were still tanks and stuff, and like I just really like the transport vehicles, and I think Visceral's doing a pretty good job on that so far. The cars, their physics kind of blow, but I like the sound, and they sound pretty good. It's pretty realistic when you're driving in them.
Those music choices.
It works, man. It fits the theme.
I actually think
do you guys
Run the
remember the
Jewels track is
original
pretty good.
Battlefield Vietnam where you could turn on the old
Yup.
yeah.
When they had like CCR and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. You could turn that on and play it like as you're fighting in the jungle and stuff, and your Cobra helicopters like blasting this music as you blow up little villages and stuff.
Yes.
It sounds so bad when you say it like that.
Oh, it was bad, but it was awesome all at the same time.
Did you? I'm pretty sure I read it on Wikipedia that's what they actually did to scare the shit out of their enemy. Just
Probably.
that music?
I mean,
Yeah.
I think they were probably drawing their inspiration more from like Apocalypse Now, but I'm assuming Apocalypse Now drew it from reality. So. Yeah.
Oh, actually, that's a good point. I think they did a pretty good job capturing like, sort of there are some very Dark Knight moments when you're like zip lining from the bank to the one of the objectives, as well as what's that other movie? I always forget what it's called. That they heavily were influenced by, that cop movie with
Heat?
Heat with Val Kilmer.
Val Kilmer and
That? And
Pacino, De Niro.
yes, there you go. Those
There.
two guys.
yeah, I think they did a pretty good job of sort of capturing that.
Yeah,
same
I
feeling
think
as
the
those
bank
movies.
job was directly inspired by
Yeah, you can
some
tell.
of the Heat action sequences. And when you're not getting killed from the rooftops and you're actually just fighting in the streets, like from car to car, and you're like blowing up cars with grenades and stuff, it's got this really awesome feeling. It almost like makes me wish that there was no rooftop access at certain points, because I'm like, let's just fight in the cars on the street and have this awesome firefight.
Yeah. Nice.
Nice.
The other thing I wanted to touch on was I think, like, for me personally, I'm really enjoying the beta. I don't have much frustration with it, except for the not being able to blow up buildings, and also the I wonder if you get this on PC as well, but on like definitely the consoles. There's still some like really serious sort of delay with the sort of your hit registration and the sort of how the game notifies you that you're being hit. It's still very delayed. Like, I think a lot of people are complaining about the time to kill. When I'm shooting somebody, it feels all right. It actually feels spot on. I think it's fair, but it's just when I'm getting shot, I feel like the game isn't telling me what's really happening, and I'm dying from 2 bullets from a pistol. Or the K10, for example. The K10 at like outside of SMG range, like 4 times now I've clearly noted that it felt like it killed me as if it were a shotgun.
I think we're seeing some Battlefield 4 issues breaching over into Hardline, and I think some of them have only recently been discovered. I didn't discover this bug, but I made a video about it recently where your user interface and basically the sounds of being shot never registered. So you'd be like, oh, I'm running around with 100% health, even though somebody's like shot away 70% of your health. It just never updated on your UI for whatever the reason that bug occurs. And then you get shot once by some weird gun. And you're like, oh, what the hell? Like, how'd that kill me so fast? And it's like.
Did you guys see that the high frequency network update was a toggle still in this?
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
It's there.
So does that affect? I can't remember. It's been so long.
It should.
Since. Okay,
Yeah,
so
it
should
but by
within a
default
certain
it's
proximity.
off though, right?
Wait, what?
I think it's on by default.
Yeah.
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 You
But
should
one thing-
have it on.
Yeah, one thing I'm noticing in Hardline that I've never noticed in Battlefield 4 or 3 or any of them, actually, is that I'm also dying, like, before I hear anything. Like, if it's a shotgun or a sniper rifle, like those one-hit kind of kill weapons.
I had
you know,
a
you just
silent death once from a sniper rifle. It was just like,
Well,
there's
dude, that's
no
happening
action
to
going
me
on
a
around
lot.
me at all, and I just fell over, and it's like, you got sniped. I'm like, I didn't hear anything. Like, this is so weird.
Well, I saw on my Twitter feed that a small YouTuber by the name of Scanner Barkley, and I'm not sure if it was his video or not, but he posted a link saying that the sound to the shot is delayed in Hardline, and that it was an issue, and then it was like just discovered, like, you know, maybe like a day or so ago, and it just kind of felt like, you know, some of these things feel more like a Frostbite engine issue than, you know, just specific to one game that uses Frostbite, you know? So, I mean, I just kind of hope that when Battlefield Hardline gets launched, and it is, you know, released, and I understand that the beta is probably a couple builds behind, that, you know, everything is just kind of sorted out and fixed, and that it goes smoothly.
Yeah, I will say, like, you're right. It feels very much like these are Frostbite bugs. You know, it's like the fail reload bug. It's been in every Frostbite engine game ever, and they're all like, "We fixed it," and then it's like, "No, you didn't." But this beta, bug-wise, even though there are bugs and issues and stuff, compared to pretty much any real Battlefield beta I've played before, is like miles beyond it right now.
Oh,
like,
yep,
I think
yep.
the game's actually just fun to play. I haven't crashed once. As far as the like weird hit reg and sound bugs, it's like it's at a pretty minimal level, to the point where it's not bothering me like enough. You know, once the game comes out, and if this stuff's still in there and I'm playing it for months, I'll be like, come on guys, let's fix these things. But in beta, I'm sort of like very forgiving right now.
Well, I
that
think
makes sense.
the issue with Hardline is more network kind of problems, and maybe, you know, sometimes with the sound, because I mean, every Battlefield game ever, there has been sound issues with everything and anything. I mean, the lost sound of helicopters has been prominent in almost every Battlefield game that I've played. So I
This
just
is
kind
the
of
only time that I'm not hearing like bullet sounds when I die, though.
yeah.
I've never had that problem in others.
And that's what I'm saying. Maybe it's a Frostbite engine issue as a whole, and kind of with the whole network part of Frostbite that is. And I think that is the only issue that I have with Hardline in terms of it actually like working and stuff like that. You know, like I have a few different design choices that I'd rather go with. But other than that, I mean, it's a pretty solid beta for a Battlefield beta, because Battlefield 4's beta was just I don't even want to talk about it.
I would say you could go as far to say that this is the best Battlefield beta that they've ever had. Like,
Absolutely.
just performance and crashes and bugs.
Yeah. So I guess one of the last questions I want to ask you guys is like, if you could give kind of just one or two major pieces of feedback, things that you want to see in the final release, what would they be? And, you know, reasonable things. Not like, I'm not going to ask for 1080p on Xbox One.
We should start with the two guys who don't plan on getting this game at launch, or even want to spend relatively around $60.
Good idea. What, Jimmy and Tom, what can Battlefield do to please you?
That can actually happen. That's because my issues as far as Hotwire go. What really takes me out of it as cool as it is, guys hanging out the window, kicking open the back door van, and like you were saying earlier, I do think the soundtrack really coincides with it. For the most part, at least most of the tracks I've heard.
Yeah.
Particularly like on a map like Dust Bowl, as soon as you go up any elevation or your car goes on a jump, I don't think I've even made my car barrel roll. So it really takes me out of the high speed element. You do seem like you're driving fast. Let's say you're driving the police interceptor or something like that. That thing zips. But as soon as there's any sort of like you're driving up in the air or you're going off the ground, the physics just really take me out of it. So I don't even want to touch Hotwire. And I do like Heist, but like I said, for me to even consider getting it, price would have to be less, and I guess premium would just have to not even be in the equation. I don't think there's enough here to justify getting premium again, honestly. If it's just double XP, you get extra double XP weekends and stuff like that, no big deal. But if you're going to be hiding away content like maps and stuff like that, and again, the engine is so similar to Battlefield 4. It does have some uniqueness, like I said, in terms of its aesthetic and all that stuff, and the way the guns handle, the recoil. I do appreciate what they're trying to attempt here, but they just seem handicapped by what Frostbite offers. It doesn't seem very flexible to what they're trying to do. So I just see the game. It's going to be what it is, and I'll just wait for a price drop.
Yeah, that's fair, man. Yeah,
Okay,
I agree with the vehicle things as well. I think
I have one question for Tom. Okay, when you see the coverage after the game launches, and it feels like to you that it has more content than you previously thought of, and it looks better and all that stuff, would you consider it without the price drop?
No, I'm not that desperate to play the game. Right? Here's what I think. I think the server issues that plagued BF4 is particularly for PS4 users. It's not going to happen this go round. I literally it's whatever patches were implemented to BF4 are all here in terms of netcode and everything. I think that part's going to be rock solid. I don't have any trepidation about how this game is going to perform in terms of stability. It's not so much the content. It just feels it does have some uniqueness, but there's just a lot of carryover from what's going on with Battlefield 4.
It feels too
and if one of
familiar.
Right. And like I said, it Counter-Strike feels different. Day of Defeat feels different from Half-Life 2, obviously. But those games don't have, they didn't charge $60 or $50 at the time, whatever was MSRP at the time. And I don't feel like this game deserves to be charging that much money. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate what they're trying to go for here. I can't see. There's
no
nothing
one's
that
getting you wrong.
convinces me. No,
Yeah,
not this time. Not this time.
Not this time. Not on my watch. Jimmy, I guess you're the same
Yeah,
thing?
basically the same thing. I mean, it feels way too familiar. I mean, Battlefield 4 launched horribly, but I mean, towards the end, it was a pretty good game. I just don't feel like it's worth a $60 investment, especially when I've been burnt out on so many games already. I don't want to invest in something I've already basically played.
Yeah, I think a good summation of both your guys' outlook on the game is or the feedback would actually be something that really cannot be done, because it's like the only way you're gonna fix that is to get rid of the yearly release for Battlefield and for AAA games in general. So it's kind of sad, because it's like, you guys are like fed up with that, but it's like not gonna change. Like until Battlefield titles are like 3 years apart in terms of releases. I know Visceral had 3 years of development time, but really they're only a year like ahead of DICE, if that makes sense, to make those improvements and changes, and you can't do a lot in 1 year.
I know it might sound crazy, but I don't think it's a limitation of how the engine is structured. Like I said, it just doesn't seem entirely flexible to what Visceral's vision is. If Hotwire had a destructible car model, something like get rid of the environmental destruction and focus on car destruction in that event, something like the old Burnout games, like Burnout Paradise or something. I think that would
Shooting
be
at
really
tires. That's what I would love to see.
That would be amazing. And they should just, if they could somehow make it flexible, to devote it to that, as opposed to even Dust Bowl doesn't really have environmental destruction, but if there was some way that they could make the physics better, make the destruction of the cars more just like crazy, just shrapnel everywhere. I mean, I would be more intrigued and more it would be more unique. So I'd have to be more compelled to pay full price. That's what I would love to see in the next iteration. And hopefully Visceral gets more. They get the key to the city, so to speak. Like they can actually tweak with the engine instead of being like, okay, this is the Battlefield 4 engine, and you just have to deal with it and work around it, work within it, within its confines. It's basically where I'm at.
Nice. Why don't let's hear from Denny.
Okay.
Well, like you don't have to go all out.
No,
with, like,
no,
thoughts,
it's
but,
just
like feedback. What would you give to Visceral for feedback?
Feedback would be, and this is just completely based on what I've heard from personal friends who've attended the events and what I've seen. I wish that they would focus on their unique game modes and tailor more maps to certain things. Like Hotwire in the beta feels like they took a conquest map and were like, well, we don't want a conquest map for this, we don't want to put a conquest, mode for this map, so we're just going to make it a Hotwire map. And it just feels like making laps in a really bad driving game. And in the other day, when me and David were playing, it just felt like making laps and then just, kind of shooting the opposition. I mean, he was at like 10,000, 10K score or whatever,
I
just
think we
driving
drove the whole time. Yeah, that was
yeah.
funny.
So I mean, my feedback would be if they tailored more of the modes to specific maps and stuff like that, then I would be pretty okay with buying the game just based on the unique game modes. Okay, if Heist does have more maps that are just tailored to that specific, then I would be really happy. But at this point, I'm just not ready to throw down any money towards the game, just based on the fact that a lot of game developers and publishers have kind of ruined it for other developers and publishers that haven't really wronged anyone. So I mean, at this point, Visceral has to prove to me that Battlefield Hardline is worth $60.
That's some tough feedback. Cool. All right. Okay. Well, Mr. LevelCap will save you for last. I'll give mine. Mine's actually really simple. I was thinking about it while I was playing today, and I just really, because it's what's plagued Battlefield 4, and it's also what kind of caused me to take a big break from Battlefield 4 last year or whenever, which is that I just really want them to be sure that I don't feel like I'm fighting the game and its engine and its network issues in addition to the enemies, and it's just like what I touched on earlier. I just want to be sure that I'm informed in terms of what's like happening with when being shot at. I want to be able to go into cover and to actually be in cover and not have like my hitboxes still kind of on the out of cover so that they can still shoot me. Because I actually had some pretty frustrating instances with that today. So that's kind of like just my biggest thing is I just really want all that bullshit, quote unquote, to be set aside so that I can just make sure I'm focusing on on just shooting people and defending myself and getting shot fairly. And that's really it. Otherwise, I think Battlefield Hardline is going to pretty much be my jam just because the overall theme and the way some classic modes like Conquest plus the new modes are just right up my alley in terms of the way I like to play Battlefield. So, yeah, that's mine. Let's hear from Mr. LevelCap.
I agree with most things that were said here. David, especially with the netcode stuff, like it's just been the bane of my existence. I mean, I used to complain about BF3, and then when BF4 came out, I was like, I'm sorry. Like, let's go back to the way things were in BF3. Like, I'm so sorry I ever complained in the first place. My God. And now I almost feel like I'm a pushover. Like, we've spent so long with BF4's netcode that I feel like Hardline feels better than BF4 to me right now. That's just been my personal experience so far. So I'm like, yeah, 2 thumbs up, guys. Way to make it slightly better than it used to be, which was totally shitty. And I feel like I'm almost biased on that level. I'm just so excited if I see any improvement in that area. But I would love to see them focus more on that. And I almost wonder if like the engine's they're trying to be more clever with making the netcode operate with 64 player games, that they're trying to like create all these cool little ways of cutting corners and making things more efficient, that they're like kind of screwing things up and making them more complicated in the long run. I really don't know, because there's not a lot of other shooters out there that try and incorporate that much information all at once. Vehicles, crazy physics, 64 players. Like, I mean, it's challenging. And I feel like they had it pretty good with BF3, and it's just kind of gone downhill since then. So I would love to see them continue to focus on that. As far as the rest of the game goes, I will say I think they've done a good job since the closed alpha of making the game feel more like cops and criminals. Like initially it felt much more like a BF4 skin, like reskin. And I think that they've done a lot of work to make it really feel much more cops and criminals. The character models look better, the voiceover sound better, the maps cater a lot to the game modes and stuff like that. And that's really cool, but I think they could have gone further with it. And I think there's some decisions that they made that were, I would just say, ballless. You know, I'll just put that out there. Like, they left parachutes in the game. Sorry, what cops and criminals game do you have, like, every guy running around with a freaking parachute? Now, I know the developer's official response to this is, oh, we tried it without parachutes and it wasn't as fun. Well, design the maps around a non-parachute game. Like, put some grappling hooks or some zip lines on top of most building rooftops. That's your way to get down from the rooftop, not jumping off with a parachute. Or make it an equipable item, a gadget, something like that. Also, the transport helicopters with miniguns, I think they could have... I, like you, David, like the focus on transport vehicles rather than heavy armor. And I like that. I feel like choppers, like especially the police chopper, the rogue chopper with a minigun on the bottom and then two pilot like cannons on the side. It's like, I'm sorry, what police force has those? Like, at that point, you're calling in the freaking National Guard because you have other shit to worry about.
Visceral is just capitalizing on the militarization of our police. Okay, that is what they're doing.
I gotta say, what really works though is the whole like the LMGs and the RPGs in the junk in the trunk thing. I think
that's gonna backfire on you, dude. I disagree again on that.
Oh yeah, okay.
Just because, so in some of the play sessions I've been to, where it's like everybody has everything unlocked, and we're all like, cool, now we can test it all out. Everybody has an RPG in the trunk of their car. Wait till you play Hotwire, where everybody has an RPG in the trunk of their car, and it's just gonna turn into RPG fest. Like RPGs are one-shot kills on every car. Hey, you can get them out of any trunk. It's so annoying. Like, it's unbelievable.
See how that backfires.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
I kind of personally wanted them to take maybe RPGs out of the trunk, keep LMGs in the trunk or something, and then more strategically place them around the map instead.
Yeah, or maybe make some of those vehicle upgrades, like other upgrades, more useful, so that people would kind of have to choose between, do I want the RPG, or maybe there's something else in that slot that would
more ammo. Extra ammo in the base of your car.
Maybe that, yeah. I mean, I usually don't have too much of a problem with ammo.
Hydraulic lift kit, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be pretty sweet.
Could like dodge the RPG by raising the car over, Inspector Gadget style.
Oh,
that would be sweet.
Oh man, yeah, cool. All right. Well, I'll just say quickly, thanks for listening to our listeners, and we definitely absolutely want to hear from you guys in the comments of either the YouTube video or on the website, just in the comments. Like, what are your thoughts on Hardline? And yeah, what's like some of the feedback? If you could only pick like one or two pieces of feedback to give to Visceral for the final release, what would it be? And thank you so much, Mr. LevelCap, for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
How can people find you? So, tell us the gist.
Go to YouTube, type in LevelCapGaming. You'll find my channel. And yeah, sweet. I do tutorial videos and stuff like that on Battlefield.
Nice. Very cool. All right, guys. Thanks a lot for hanging out, talking some Battlefield.
Yeah.
Woo. Yeah, all right, we'll catch you guys later.